get over children. I want to thank all of the friends, the co-workers who've worked with Tim, our relatives, people who have been coming out of the woodwork, showering us with so much love.
Is it possible that Mr. Busfield inappropriately touched SL on the set of The Cleaning Lady?
No.
Prohibit your travel. I understand you may not live here, but you will need to report to pretrial services here. You're not to possess any firearms or dangerous weapons. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You must notify the court of your address. Not to discuss the case with any witnesses. That's what the attorneys and their investigators are there to do. And we can't have you tamper with any of that. And then you need to maintain weekly contact with your attorney in this case. So, Mr. Busfield, do you have any questions?
Melissa Gilbert is once again at the center of a fierce cultural storm, this time not only because of her silence, but because of how that silence has been interpreted, dissected, and amplified by media figures such as Megyn Kelly and a relentlessly unforgiving online news
An enormous loss and even embarrassment for prosecutors in Busfield's child abuse case.
People point out that Melissa has nothing to do with the allegations against Timothy, which is not true. She is repeatedly referenced in the police affidavit in support of the charges, accusing her of being part of the grooming by taking these two 7-year-old boys out for dinners and buying them presents, not specifically saying that she knew they were being abused, but definitely pointing to her as fostering the close relationship. So it's not true that she has nothing to do with it. And she has nothing suddenly to say about abuse, Maureen. Absolutely nothing. She's deleted the socials.
She then deletes her Instagram account, but then reactivates the modern prairie, whatever her thing is, to show us the contents of her refrigerator, as one does when one's husband is facing multiple accounts of child abuse. That police affidavit, by the way, I believe, the part where Melissa's involved too, because when the police in Albuquerque were interviewing Timothy in New York via speakerphone, he said, "Melissa is here with me."
She heard everything. November 3rd.
Heard everything.
What began as criticism over an ill-timed lifestyle post quickly morphed into a broader debate about loyalty, optics, and whether public figures, especially women, are ever allowed to grieve, stand by family, or simply exist quietly when controversy explodes around them. As cable panels and viral clips weighed in, Kelly emerged as one of the loudest voices questioning Gilbert's judgment, framing her behavior as emblematic of Hollywood hypocrisy and misplaced priorities. The commentary was sharp, accusatory, and widely shared, turning Gilbert into less a person and more a symbol in a culture war narrative about accountability and public performance.
Saying that this is a case involving revenge by parents who were angry that their kids were fired from the last season of The Cleaning Lady. To support the argument, the defense played for the judge an audio we first obtained involving one of the kids talking to the police. And even before the policeman asked, "Did Timothy Busfield touch you inappropriately?" the child jumped in, even before the question was asked, and said, "He never touched me inappropriately."
What has received far less oxygen, however, is Gilbert herself, visibly shaken, withdrawn from public view, and reportedly emotional during recent court appearances, where she was seen wiping away tears and keeping her head down. Those close to the situation describe her demeanor as subdued and repentant in tone, not performative, but heavy with the strain of someone watching her private life collapse under public scrutiny. In court, she did not seek attention, did not grandstand, and did not address cameras. Instead, she sat quietly, at times crying, at times gripping tissues, embodying a posture that many read as grief rather than defiance. For supporters, this was not the image of a woman doubling down, as some pundits suggested, but of someone absorbing a personal reckoning in real time.
Witnesses on the set said that the mother of these two boys told her that if her kids were fired, she vowed revenge against Timothy Busfield. Another thing that the defense lawyer said was that Timothy Busfield was never alone with these children, and the people who regularly were around never saw anything untoward with Timothy Busfield and the kids.
Despite the ferocity of the backlash, Gilbert has remained physically present beside her husband throughout the ordeal, a choice that has drawn both sympathy and outrage. To critics like Kelly, that presence is framed as complicity or moral blindness. To defenders, it is the act of a spouse honoring a private commitment while the public demands a spectacle.
Pretty much everything they alleged in his defense, we kind of knew, but we did not know that the parents of the two boys are a couple of, as the defense lawyers, I'm sorry, adequately said, con men. The mother and the father both appear to be serial fraudsters.
Busfield's attorneys say the parents of the alleged victims have a history of fraud and wanted revenge after their boys were recast. The prosecution rejected that claim, pointing out the alleged abuse was reported by a therapist, not the parents.
The parents are not the ones making these allegations. The kids didn't even disclose to their parents. They disclosed to a neutral third party.
The media's fixation on her decision to stand by him without addressing specifics has sparked a familiar and uncomfortable question. Why is steadfastness in women so often treated as guilt, weakness, or moral failure, while silence is interpreted as strategy rather than survival? Gilbert has not granted interviews, has not issued emotional statements, and has not attempted to control the narrative beyond retreating from it. In a media ecosystem that rewards instant reaction and public confession, her refusal to perform has itself become the offense.
She's still posting. So she's deleted her personal socials, though she was very active using them, trying to shame people like me who she didn't feel talked about abuse in the proper way. Hello, heal thyself, preacher.
I don't mean to be superficial, but I look at the two of them and they look like a colossal mess. They look like very heavy drinkers to me.
Yeah,
they look.
See it.
They look unhygienic to me.
Yes, they do look unhygienic.
It speaks to just a sort of chaos, like an emotional, intellectual chaos. That guy was missing for 5 days. If law enforcement knew where he was, we would have known. And I think the feds raiding the house upstate,
yes,
ramming their way in. I think that was an FU to those two for him being wherever he was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you said, innocent people don't run.
No,
you know,
no.
My opinion, innocent people don't run.
Melissa Gilbert, Timothy Busfield's wife, was in court. She was crying as the judge said not only would he release Timothy Busfield, but he would release him without any bail, that he is released on his own recognizance pending trial. Now, this does not mean that Timothy Busfield is in the clear. He is still the defendant in a child sexual abuse case, and that is serious.
Megyn Kelly's critiques, echoed across talk shows and opinion columns, have leaned heavily on the contrast between Gilbert's carefully cultivated public brand and her current posture. The argument goes that someone who built a career and later a business on values like integrity, community, and moral clarity owes the public a response when those values are tested. But others argue that this expectation blurs a dangerous line, demanding that women convert personal anguish into consumable accountability theater. Gilbert's tears in court, seized upon by tabloids and commentators alike, have been variously framed as calculated, insufficient, or ironic, depending on the outlet. Rarely are they treated simply as what they appear to be, human. The irony is hard to miss. For decades, Gilbert has been a symbol of American wholesomeness, first as a child star and later as an advocate for artists' rights and a champion of quieter, values-driven living. Now, in the harsh glare of scandal-adjacent scrutiny, that same legacy is being used as a cudgel against her. The media narrative has little patience for nuance. It prefers villains, enablers, or heroes. There is no clean category for a woman who is neither defending nor denouncing, neither explaining nor disappearing completely. Standing silently beside her husband, Gilbert occupies a space that makes audiences uncomfortable, precisely because it resists easy moral packaging.
State that the boy's mother said, "I'm going to get his." That looks bad, and apparently the judge bought into it.
I don't think this is going to be one's an angel and one's a devil.
I don't expect victims to be angels. I never get an angel victim. This case is riddled with problems. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
What is also striking is how quickly public empathy evaporated once her lifestyle brand continued posting content. The now infamous refrigerator post became shorthand for supposed indifference, even though brands often operate on scheduled pipelines far removed from personal crises. Yet the symbolism stuck, and figures like Kelly used it to underscore what they portrayed as a grotesque disconnect between curated domestic bliss and real-world gravity.